So as Phil said, the reading this morning is from Isaiah chapter 55, and we'll be reading through the first 9 verses. Come, all you who are thirsty, come to the waters. And you who have no money, come, buy and eat. Come, buy wine and milk, without money and without cost. Why spend money on what is not bread, and your labor on what does not satisfy? Listen to me, and eat what is good, and you will delight in the richest of fare. Give ear and come to me. Listen, that you may live. I will make an everlasting covenant with you, my faithful love promised to David. See, I have made him a witness to the peoples, a ruler and commander of the peoples. Surely you will summon nations you know not, and nations you do not know will come running to you, because of the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, for he has endowed you with splendor. Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call on him while he is near. Let the wicked forsake their ways, and the unrighteous their thoughts. Let them turn to the Lord, and he will have mercy on them, and to our God, for he will freely pardon. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts.
Thanks, Tom, and the music group, and Phil for leading us to that throne of grace. Do keep that passage open. As Phil has mentioned, we're returning to our vision theme of the verses behind us. And we're looking at Isaiah 51, and clearly there are overtones there, strong overtones, even though this passage was written some 700 years before Jesus was born. Isaiah is the longest book of the Old Testament prophets, and it also has the record of being the most quoted in the New Testament. Now, this shouldn't surprise us, because in chapters 40 to 55, God very much opens up his great plan of salvation, which is ultimately fulfilled in the New Testament. Now, here we have, if you like, the plan is ready, and God is going to launch it up through Isaiah. Now, how's he going to launch that? He does it as though he's at a marketplace, as though he's a seller, and he's in a crowded marketplace, and he's trying to get people's attentions. I don't know if you've been to one of those market places where you get all these sellers standing on boxes and say, over here, it's not going for £100. No, it's going for not even 50. It's going for 20. This is a golden opportunity. This is a once-in-a-lifetime offer. And, of course, it's some crockery that you don't want. But nevertheless, you feel like you want to buy it. And he'll say, and to make it even sweeter, I'm offering this free wristwatch. Rolex, no less. Of course, and yet people do buy it. But God is competing with those kind of voices. And so he makes an offer that is unique and special to him, and only he can offer it on that. So let's look at the verses. And the first word is difficult to translate, although most of the translations put come. It's a word of attention. It's like, hey, you out there, come over here. And he calls to the thirsty. Very usual to be thirsty in a very hot climate, and so this would have been a very appealing offer. But this great offer of quenching your thirst is free. That's most unusual. You usually have to buy. Then to the poor, you can guarantee they are hungry. That is one of the things about being poor, is you do not have enough food. In the language I work in, the person who's rich is referred to the person who has an abundance, i.e. has more than he needs to eat. And then to everyone who's looking for nourishment and looking for enjoyment, come, drink milk for nourishment and wine for enjoyment. And the idea is that all your needs are met at this one stall. So come and drink. Don't go away. Stay here. Come and eat. And when you've eaten, then your belly is satisfied, then you can have wine and you can have milk. There's no need to go anywhere else. This is the great offer that God is offering. Now, to us, I can see from your eyes, I can say, that this isn't very appealing, is it? Because we have water on tap, we have food at the supermarkets, and you may have had a bottle of wine last night. You certainly probably had milk in your tea or on your cereals today. It seems to have very little appeal to us. But there should be appeal. What God is offering is unique and that we all need. And then he goes on to compare and the challenge he puts out there. So you can imagine he's looking around and there's all these other stalls and people are crowding around and giving their money and there's nobody in front of him. And he says to them, why spend money on what is not bread and your labor on what does not satisfy? Look at the offer I'm giving you. It's an offer that satisfies and doesn't cost. You don't have to work for it. Why would you go to the left or to the right? Why? Oh, why? Why do you accept the other offer? Can you imagine it? When we were in Nairobi, we were working amongst people in the slum area there, and they struggled each day to put food on the table. And the husband or wife would go out and look for work each day. And if she found or he found work, then they had food to put on the table. Could you imagine somebody in that situation going, working, coming back, dirty, sweaty, etc. And his wife's thinking, oh, what have you got today? Fish, a bit of meat, some ubi, whatever. And he opens up the bag, and it's meringues. Can you imagine the response his wife would give him? Well, we couldn't probably print it. But the fact is, the meringues, the kids think, hey, meringues, wonderful. But of course, they're sweet, and you can't eat much of them, and they don't last long in the stomach. They don't satisfy on that. You're probably sick before you could get satisfied. And this challenge is not harsh, but it's from God's heart. It's a pleading heart. Don't waste your money on what does not satisfy, and labor for what does not fill your belly. So listen to me. Pay special concentrate on what I'm saying. Not only do I offer you free bread that satisfies, but also good food that you probably wouldn't have access, the richest kind of food to delight your whole being. You know, it's like those wonderful meals that you go out into a restaurant, you remember those days, where there's color, there's texture, there's taste, and there's a smell. And it pleases all the senses on that. And God is saying, what I have to offer will satisfy your whole being. But God is using metaphors. He's using a picture language here, isn't it? There's no food, I'm afraid, to be offered. Even when COVID, we're not going to be offering a great banquet like God is offering. It's figurative language. So what's so essential spiritually that's equivalent to basic food and drink and also to the nicer things in life to eat? God, in the next few verses, speaks plainly about it. It says, give ear and come to me. Hear me, that your soul may live. The promise of life. He intensifies the language. He moves away from food to life. Even more important than food is life. Concentrate, come, obey, and your inner being will live your soul, because he's ready to make an eternal, unbreakable covenant with you, one that's the same as he made with David, one in which he said, my goodness will follow you all the days of your life. Show that same faithful, loving kindness. And this is remarkable, isn't it? It should be. Because he promises something that he promised to very few people. I think it was Noah, Abraham, and David. But he's offering this to anyone who comes. He's promising a different quality and quantity of life, fuller, richer, satisfying life with him now and forever. How is this going to happen? How can this happen? And then we're told in the next verse, we have to jump to verse 7. So jump to verse 7. Let the godless forsake his way, and the unrighteous man his thoughts. This restored relationship can happen because God is ready to show mercy and freely pardon, to freely forgive. All you need to do is turn. Turn away from those other stalls. Come to me. Forsake those other stalls and come to me. Notice it extends to the godless. The word for wicked there is very wide-ranging, but it's generally the idea is godless. People have no thought of God. Their lives do not show that they've ever thought of God. And the unrighteous, obviously, their thoughts are not about God at all. They're thinking about themselves and not about other people even as well. So he's ready, his heart is ready, and this should strike us as incredible. So we have all, before we became a Christian, if we are a believer, we all kind of forsook his ways. We did everything we could to rebel against him, probably, and yet his heart is ready to show compassion. He's ready to dismiss that entire debt that stands against us. I don't know about you. I wonder if you're as honest. If people were to ask you, what's the hardest thing in life? I think it's to forgive. I think it's to forgive. The longer I go on living, I see so many people who find it really difficult to forgive. Depends upon the pain. I'm not casting stones. I find it difficult as well. Depends on the pain and who did it. So difficult. And here we have God's own creation that he made in his image. And they turn away from him. And yet his heart is ready to show compassion, to show love, to forgive. He's not going to punish, though he would be justified in doing it. Instead, he wants to show love. And it's absolutely free. There's no promise. He doesn't say, let the godless forsake his way and the righteous man his thoughts, and promise always to obey me. No, he says, just come. Come, turn towards me, showing that you want to be freely forgiven. You want to change your life. And once we're forgiven, we're reunited with God. We become part of his family. We come into his home family. We become his forever children. We're never, ever again going to be separated. And he becomes our forever Father on that. It's wonderful what God is offering there. And we can start living a life that is pleasing to him. Not trying to grab anything from him, but just want to simply please him as a child, as a father. Of course, we will fail. We will fall, but we will get up again. And with his help, we'll continue on. So how do you turn to God? Well, Jesus is the fulfillment. As Phil was mentioning in the earlier part of the service, he's the fulfillment. He's the answer to how I turn to God. There is only one way to God. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So Jesus is the way. And look at these New Testament verses here. If anyone is thirsty, let him come to me and drink. I am the bread of life. He who comes to me will never be hungry. I have come that you might have life and to the full. It's just like it's the next chapter in Isaiah. Jesus is the absolute fulfillment. Every jot and tittle he has fulfilled. And in fact, that last verse is my absolute favorite in the whole Bible. It's so deep and so profound, and it's so true, and it's never ending. It gives you life. And then you go and find how full it is. Day by day, he showers you with blessing. And though it doesn't cost us very much at all, just our pride to turn, to say we've been wrong, and we want to have forgiveness from God, it costs Jesus absolutely everything. As that song reminds us, they are nail prints in his hands and his feet. One day when we will see him, we will see them. They are not gone. He still identifies with us in heaven, interceding. He identified with us on earth, so much so he took our sin. He became sin for us and allowed himself to be nailed to that cross and to bear those marks. If I had been him, I would have wanted those marks gone. That perfect body, marred by those holes, those gaping holes, the bloody holes, and yet he wears them for us to identify with him. We will know Jesus in more than one way. We will know him. We will look for those hands with those nails and those feet. We will see his glory, and we will see what he suffered for us. Then, when we have that forgiveness, when we become part of his family, we receive his Spirit in us to quench that spiritual thirst. His word as our daily bread, and his daily blessings as that luxury, that richer food to feast upon. Now, this message is for anyone who's thirsty and hungry for a relationship with God, and it's on his terms, free terms. Yes, you have to accept it on his free terms. It's a father giving to a child. It's not an outsider trying to grab it. You have to take it on his free terms. But maybe you're a believer who's drifting. I became a believer in Jesus and followed him at the age of 17. I believe that's not uncommon age on that. But for 4 years, I drifted. I went to other stalls. I listened to other voices. I drifted. And the sad thing was, I didn't even know it until I came back to him. And then I realized I'd missed out 4 years of his blessing. Do not miss out on his blessing. If you're drifting, come back. Come back. So God is offering a restored relationship with him through free pardon, which brings blessing that everyone needs. So much so, just like bread, food, if you like, and water, and the nicer things. Isn't it nice? I think that's what we're missing, isn't it? Something, a bit of enjoyment, a bit of relaxation, or some nice food. Don't make excuses, just come. Not like the people in Jesus' parables who were invited to a banquet. Look at the excuses. Now this is, right, in those days, the wedding banquet, you sent out the invite saying, in the future, we're going to have a wedding banquet and you should get prepared for it. So you'd have time. Not like in the country where I work, where they give you 5 days. Anyway, they give you time to get ready and prepared. And then you send out, it's ready. Come. And these are the excuses. But they all alike began to make excuses. The first said, I've just bought a field. I must go and see it. Who buys a field without seeing it first? Please excuse me. Another said, I've just bought 5 yoke of oxen. I'm on my way to try them out. Who buys oxen who haven't tried them out before? I mean, it's like buying a car without trying it. So another said, I've just got married, so I can't come. So what? These are lame excuses. If you sent out a wedding invitation and you got these replies back, you think, that's the end of that one. and that relationship. These are lame, and they insult Jesus. You are saying basically, I have something far more important than what you are offering. But it isn't. This is the most important offer you will ever get. It's life-changing, life-determining, life quality changing. It changes everything in your life if you accept this offer. But remember, it's time sensitive. And the passage we read in verse 6, it says, seek the Lord while he may be found. Call on him while he is open. That market stall is here. It's ready, it's open. But one day, that place is going to be empty. When you die, you don't get a chance to go to that marketplace. When Jesus comes back, he's not coming back behind a marketplace stall. He's coming back to gather us all. It'll be too late. And this is a message to those in COVID times, I've said, who've drifted away. It's been so hard, hasn't it? You've missed out on so much blessing. It's been so easy just to drift, hasn't it? Just think, oh, I can't be bothered to have another Zoom meeting. Can't do that, whatever. And if you're in that kind of situation, or this is the first time you've heard this offer and you want to take it up, then obviously talk to Phil or myself, or drop Andy an email at andy@wrbc.org.uk. And if you are his child and you're not wandering, don't be complacent. That's where it all started from. The Israelites, the people of Judah as well, just became so complacent. They didn't try and go to his market stall. They thought, well, it's fine, I'll just go to the other ones. We're God's people, it doesn't matter. Don't be complacent, but feast on Jesus. Keep seeking him out. Where you can hear his voice faithfully preached or heard, go there. Worship and pray and be prayed for. Go to those places where you can know Jesus and worship and pray to him and be prayed for. Keep checking your hunger and your thirst. What's it like? What's your hunger level like for Jesus? Are you thirsting for him? I have a bit of a reputation of when I get focused on a job, I'm not looking at my wife now, I get focused on a job, everything else pales into insignificance. I don't drink, I don't eat, I don't rest, I just work at it. And some of my friends have suffered under that. Don't be like that. Don't be so focused on physical life that you forget your spiritual hunger, your spiritual thirst, your spiritual desire for the blessings from God. Finally, during these COVID times, I hate to keep mentioning it, it's going to be nice one day not to mention that word, isn't it? COVID times. But we've lived off meager rations. Spiritual meager rations we have of limited fellowship and constrained worship. Today is a sign of it, is it not? We are scattered, we cannot sing, I can't see your mouth, I can only see your eyes. We have lived off meager spiritual rations. And the day is coming, and it's not far off, when we'll have the chance to feast upon Jesus again as a body. We'll be able to sing. We'll be able to break bread like we used to do. My concern is that we got so used to living on the meager rations, we won't want to feast again. That is my real concern. That's my concern, that we will have lost that desire. Not that we will have lost that confidence to boldly approach, as that song beautifully portrays, but we've lost our confidence to meet. That confidence has been replaced by fear. Don't let fear dictate. Don't let fear stop you feasting on Jesus when it's safe to do so. We need to turn. We need to come to Jesus and feast upon his goodness, whatever state. If you're an unbeliever for the first time, whether a drifting believer, a growing believer, just come. Just come as we are. Come. Let's just bow our heads and just hopefully engage in the Lord in response to what we've heard. We thank you, Heavenly Father, for those open arms. Not that wagging finger, but those open arms that say, come, I'm ready to forgive. My heart is full of compassion. I am ready to forgive and pardon you freely. Help us to come, whatever state we're in. Let us not think of others that need to come, but let us think of ourselves. We need to come. We need to feast upon Jesus. We need to once again think of him as our spiritual bread, as our living water, as the one who brings life and in abundance. Help us to come. In Jesus' name, amen.